So welcome to Unfiltered with Sasha. Honestly, the background is not that cute. It's really not. It's a work in progress though. I'm in the process of building my she shed and it takes time and money. So bear with me, and I wanted it to look perfect. I wanted my studio to be perfect before I got on camera for the podcast. But honestly, if you wait for things to be perfect, you'll just never get it done. So with that being said, we're just gonna do it. And that's it. So as these episodes come, you will see that my background is going to be changing and being different. I already ordered my desk. We already have my paint that I want. We already got all those things ready. It's just a matter of putting it together. But if you're constantly waiting for the perfect time, you'll just never do it. So I'm taking a leap of faith, and we're gonna start putting these episodes on camera. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Welcome to Unfiltered with Sasha. Today's episode is called Bullied But Not Broken, the real talk on bullying. Do you ever look back at a moment and realize how much that moment shaped you, even if it was something painful as hell, like bullying? Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about today. Whether you were bullied in school, at work, through your family, at home, I feel like it's one of those topics that really needs to have a deep conversation. Because although the scars from bullying aren't visible, they are very much real. And so is the healing. So welcome to Unfiltered with Sasha. Today's gonna be a deep one. Where does bullying start in my life? Mom, Dad, I love you, but bullying started at home. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that my parents, fully went out to bully me and make me feel like crap about myself. But in the Colombian culture, in the Latin culture, we like to call it tough love. But at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. That shit's bullying. And it's literally little things. Te ves muy gorda, te ves muy flaca. Don't wear that. It doesn't look that great. Your hair looks a little crazy. Why don't you change this? You don't look so good in that. You look a little big. Stop eating so much. It's bullying. And it's putting on this label that we automatically start believing about ourselves. That's where it started for me. It started at home, and it started with little things from my mom, from my dad, little comments from even uncles that I didn't see for years. They'd see me and be like, ¿Cómo estás de gorda? Oh my God, like, you're so fat. And I'm like, what is going on? So comments like that is bullying. And I feel like in our culture, it is so nonchalant. It's so like, whatever, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. It is a big deal. It really hurts. And it stays with you for a really long time. And then the worst part is that if you're telling these things to a child, they're going to believe it. They're going to believe it. Aside from at home, it started for me in 4th grade. That's when I mainly can remember it. I was in Miss Prophet's class at Washington Park School in Totowa. And I had to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom. And I remember this bathroom like if I was just there yesterday. I walk into the bathroom and I go into the stall. And the first stall I go into, I sit down and close the door. And behind the door it says, "I hope Sasha dies." I was the only Sasha in that school. So I knew that was for me. Whatever, I did my business. I quickly got up and then I was like, let me check the rest of the stalls. They all said something regarding them wanting me to die. I want to kill her. I want her to die. Fuck Sasha. 4th grade. We're in 4th grade. What have I done to you that makes you want to speak this way? Now as an adult and as a mom, honestly, that's what's more concerning to me now. Like, you're in 4th grade. What do you know about wishing somebody that they were dead? Like, what do you hear at home? Like, what's going on? I remember I got to my classroom, I was crying. They obviously told my mom. We didn't end up finding out who did it. They cleaned it off. And I thought that would be the end of my bullying. But I was so far mistaken. It was just the beginning. During that summer, after 4th grade, I was fine. I felt great. I was working. I was always in the city. I was already recording for Dora as Backpack. So I was always really busy. But in the back of my head, that kind of always stuck. Like, somebody wants me dead? Like, what? But I was in 4th grade. I really didn't understand it yet, right? That summer, the Record newspaper wrote a front page article about me. And the front page article was "A Little Voice for Latinas." And it was my picture. It was very cute. Love it. Love that I still have a copy of it. But then I remember walking into 5th grade at middle school, being terrified that I'm about to be with 8th graders. I walk into the school and the first thing you see is there I am, flat on the bulletin board. The star of the school. I was petrified. I remember as soon as I got home from school, I called my mom and I'm like, you gotta tell them to take that down. Because immediately that gave me a target. My confidence from the first hour of school to the last hour dropped ridiculously. That entire day, I got bullied for so many things. I can't even remember. But at the end of the day, it was just jealousy. It was jealousy. It was envy. It was envy that, you know, that here comes this new 5th grader and there she is on the front page of a newspaper and there she is on the bulletin board. I was already shitting my pants and I was going to go to middle school. I did not need any more attention or a target on my back. And that's exactly what happened. And it just kind of went downhill from there. They took down the newspaper article and I really thought that it was going to like pass over in a couple days, a couple weeks, but it didn't. And everybody in school decided that they were going to pick on my forehead. They really couldn't say anything else about me because what were you going to say? I was pretty talented and funny? Yeah, I wouldn't want to bully her either. But what they could say was, damn, she got a big ass forehead. Because I have a good sized forehead. And especially back then, I was thinner, I was very small, I was in 5th grade, I still didn't grow tits. So yeah, my forehead was on the bigger end and it looked, you know, I've always been a little cabezona. Thanks, Dad. So that's what they started to pick on. They started to pick on my forehead. But then it started getting like, just kind of crazy. They would do things like slap my forehead. They would do things like call me 5-head all day. They would see me in the hallway and do things like this. They'd call me plasma. They, specifically one day I remember, we had to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know what my teacher was doing that he wasn't paying attention. But you know, sometimes teachers like step out and they're talking to other people. But he wasn't paying attention. And they all turned around. Oh, pause. This is what he was doing. He was looking at the flag because we're supposed to be looking straight at the flag. While he's looking at the flag, the entire class turns around and they all pledged to my forehead. Collectively. Not the whole class, but I want to say 60% of the class turned around and they just did something like this and pledged to my forehead. I feel like as a 35-year-old woman, I'm like, F them kids. But as a 5th grader, yeah, that was pretty traumatizing. That was pretty traumatizing. And I think from that moment on, I just felt that I was so ugly. And I remember telling my mom, like, I need to get bangs because I couldn't keep going to school and being made fun of for having a big forehead. Like, I just couldn't do it. I wish I could sit here and tell you that it was only through middle school, but it wasn't. 8th grade was definitely a big one for me. It was my 8th grade prom, and I remember I wore a black dress. I felt so beautiful. And I had an off-white shoulder thing. I've always been an off-the-shoulder kind of girl. And my hair was like clipped up and my makeup was done, and I just felt like $1,000,000. And I did have friends. I'm not gonna tell you I was like the lonely girl that was getting picked on in the corners, but I was getting picked on. But thank God for theater kids, right? And our theme for prom, for 8th grade prom, was like beach. It was like sand. And I remember we were there and it was all great. And I don't know in what moment it happened. My mom wasn't a chaperone for the prom. But she was friends. My mom was always like a PTA, whatever mom. You know, she was always involved. But there were other moms that were friends with my mom. I don't know when it happened. I must have been dancing. I must have been distracted. But somebody I don't know who it is, but somebody poured down my back. It was like a cup of like water and sand. It was like wet. And you know, like water and sand, that feels gross and it's like sticky. It was poured all down my dress, through the back and through my hair. And I remember just being like, what? Like, why? And honestly, what I really wanted to do is turn around and literally find out who it was and pop him in the mouth. But I never fought. And I remember telling my mom, like, I'm going to lose my shit. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to black out. My mom was a teacher at the time, so she would always say things to me like, don't fight. No, don't fight. Just tell your teacher will help you. But I'm like, maybe that's what you'll do as a teacher. Because my mom was that kind of teacher that she didn't tolerate none of that in her classroom. And I love that for your students. But that's not happening here. That's not happening here. We've told the principal, we've told the teacher, this shit's not stopping. So, whatever, they called my mom, they told her that happened. And then I remember after 8th grade prom, we were all going to a restaurant near Willowbrook Mall in Wayne. And I remember the group of kids that were involved, they were not allowed to go. The school was like, they called their parents and they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to go. You just did this shit to some kid. Like, you're not allowed to go. Like, then, aside from that event, they would wait for me outside my house. Said they wanted to jump me. They wanted to fight me. To be honest, I was never really around for them to jump me or fight me because from school, I was in New York. From New York, I was at dance. From dance, I was at boy. I was literally busy. So I'm not really sure why they wanted to pick on me so bad because I was literally just in school for school and that was pretty much it. Then I went to high school. Freshman year, it was still happening. And then I remember specifically, I was friends with these two twins. I'm still friends with them. Liana and Daniela. And I remember, I was like, I don't know what happened, but somebody said something to me. And Liana looks at me and she was like, if you don't start defending yourself, I'm going to fuck you up. And she was like, you need to stand up for yourself. And it just kind of like clicked. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And then they would be like, slowly it kind of stopped. We all kind of went our own ways. It stopped, whatever. But I remember getting into a few fights in high school, a few disagreements, and just being like, I'm standing my ground and I really don't care. But thankfully, my high school was so big that everybody was kind of busy. And then I got involved with the dance team and it was fine, right? Graduated high school, went to college. It was great. My bullying phase was finished. So I thought. I never stopped to realize how bullying was really going to affect me as an adult. It made me so, it made my self-esteem so low. It made me question myself in almost everything. I didn't feel like I was good enough for any audition, for any guy, for anything. I would look at myself in the mirror and all I would see was a girl with a big forehead. A girl who was called ugly. A girl who was constantly called a prude and whatever. And then I had my first boyfriend. And my first boyfriend, he was wonderful in the sense of like, he was really nice. But I was so broken, right? I was very broken and I was very insecure about a million things. And I questioned everything. And I was angry. I was angry about all the stuff that I had to deal with that I told you that, in my life and my personal. I was angry that throughout high school I lost my grandfather. I was angry that I felt ugly all the time. I was angry that I was gaining all this fucking weight and I didn't know what was going on, but hello, I had PCOS and I didn't know it yet. And I want to say it kind of ruined my relationship. My boyfriend at the time was also very young and we were only 19, so very young. And, because of the bullying, I accepted some pretty toxic behavior from him because I thought this is what I deserve. This is what I'm good enough for, right? And that all stems from bullying. It all stemmed from being like, well, they said I was this and they said I was that, and now he's saying this is it, so I guess this is it. And then my next relationship after that, I accepted some stuff too. And it started trickling throughout life. I wouldn't put myself out there for certain auditions. I would accept when somebody told me, no, you're not good enough for this, or no, I would be like, maybe I don't sing like this. Then I started comparing myself to everybody in college. You know, I went to Point Park University for the beginning of my college career. I was the only Latina there. I was 4'11", I was thick, and I would compare myself to these beautiful, long, white girls with blonde hair and perfect little bodies. But I wish I could go back and hug her and just kind of be like, bitch, you are a badass. Girl. You have freaking carne on you, and you have a sassy attitude. And let me also tell you, girl, that you can wail. You can sing. But I was just, all that bullying from when I was younger was affecting me 10, 11, 12, 13 years down the road. Also, let's rewind back to like that middle school, high school time. Because I was being bullied, I became a bully. At dance. At dance, I was a little bit more of like the popular girl, and I remember it was the only area in my life that I felt some sort of like value, you know? So I used to bully this girl. I wasn't like physical or anything like that. Stupid little comments. But now as an adult, I reached out, found her on Facebook, and I apologized. And I explained why. Not because she needed it. She was living her life, married, literally, probably didn't even remember. But I didn't ever want her to believe or claim any of the things that I was telling her about her, the way I was believing it so much about myself. And we ended up being super cool, and we talk, and I like her pictures, and she likes my pictures, and she has a beautiful family. So I'm really glad that I did that. I did it more for me, not necessarily for her. For a really long time, I didn't realize how deep the bullying had actually cut me. I thought I had moved on from it. I wasn't crying about it anymore. I was out living my life with my friends. But it always seemed to show up every time I second-guessed myself, every time I thought I wasn't pretty enough, every single time I compared myself to anybody that walked through the door. It showed up every time that I stayed quiet when I had something to say, every time that I let somebody step over a boundary, every time that I just made myself small to not have any attention. But if I'm going to be really honest, one of the first real moments I had of healing was when I met my now husband in 2013. It was the first time in a long time that I felt so safe, so accepted, and just so seen. My husband is the first person who has never tried to fix me, change me, rush me, tell me not to speak so loud. He has just always cheered me on. He just always saw me. And I didn't have to put on this show or prove that I was enough. He just fully accepted me, loved me, and I had never felt more comfortable in my life until that moment. And for me, that's when the healing really started. And one of the first things we did, he told me to grow out my bangs. I remember I was so scared to grow out my bangs, but he's like, grow them out. You don't need them. You don't need to have bangs. Something so simple, right? Just grow out your bangs. Without bangs back then, I remember feeling so, just, my forehead's gonna be out there. And I remember him just being like, so? You're so beautiful, like who cares? So I let him grow out. And here I am, 12 years later, living bang free, forehead out, and loving every bit of it. So that's when the process of healing started. Healing from what happened to me at home, healing from what happened to me at school, healing from all the anger that I had from events that were happening to me in my past. So the first thing I did was claim it. It happened. I'm not going to minimize it. If you don't think it's a big deal, that's fine. But I do. It affected me. It hurt me. So I took charge of that. I claimed it. Yes, that happened. And it hurt. Now I'm going to move on. Because I feel like minimizing it and being like, yeah, it wasn't a big deal. No, no. It was a big deal. It hurt. I had to freaking have bangs for years because I wasn't confident enough to, God forbid, show my forehead. It made me feel like shit all the time. So that gave me power. Being like, yeah, it happened. It was my story to tell. I was going to tell it. So that was definitely step one. Aside from growing out my bangs. Step 1.5 of the healing. Then I did what I feel like everybody should do. I went to therapy. I went to therapy and I spoke to my therapist about so many things. I have lived a lot. For somebody who just turned 35, I've done a lot of living. Some of the things that I've lived, people won't even live even if they're 100. So I've lived a lot of things, right? And the first thing that she told me was, you need to start speaking nice to yourself, because everything that was ever said about me is exactly how I kept speaking to myself, not even realizing I was just enabling whatever they had said. I was enabling it. I just kept saying it to myself. And I remember thinking that it was so corny and cheesy, but she would say things to me like, I want you to look at yourself and tell yourself that you love yourself. So I started doing that. I started looking in the mirror and be like, I love you, Sasha. I love you. And I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, you look good. You're beautiful. And I love you. And you rock this. And you smell great. And your hair looks good. So I started doing all these things. And it's kind of like that Rihanna video that goes around that she's like, what do you do when you don't feel it? I fake it until I make it type thing, right? And yeah. Because at the end of the day, everybody could have told me that. But until I fully believed it for myself, it wasn't going to change. My husband could tell me I'm beautiful until he turns blue. If I didn't think it was true, it wasn't going to stick with me, whatever he was saying. So that's what I started doing. Speaking nice to myself. I then started journaling. Some journals were just like your basic everyday diary. Some of them would be letters to my younger self or just reflecting. And I would write things like, you didn't deserve that. That wasn't true. Your forehead's never been a plasma. They were jealous. You are amazing. And I would just write these things down. And then sometimes I go back and read it. And even now I have diaries and journals. And I go back and I see things that I wrote in 2013 and 2014. And I see, even through the pages, like how much I've evolved. How much I've healed. How much stronger I've gotten. Through putting it on paper, claiming it's mine, and fixing it. I fully decided I am rewriting my story. Nobody else is the author but me and him. Other than that, nobody else can tell me how my life is going to go and how I need to feel about myself. I started to set boundaries. Well, my husband started to set them for me. The first person he kind of put in their place was my dad. And listen, I have a Army vet, scary looking dad. But my husband was sick and tired of hearing me cry to him about how my dad told me I was fat. About how I felt gross. And I felt like I wasn't good enough for my parents. And I disgusted my dad with my weight. And one day, my husband, who wasn't even my fiance at the time, looked at my dad and said to him, this will be the last time you call Sasha fat. He looked at my dad and he said, with all due respect, this is the last time you're going to call Sasha fat. She's not alone anymore. You don't see what she does. She works so hard on trying to lose weight and it's not happening for her. So be kind. And if you say it to her again, I will be here to defend her. Man! Talk about that's my man. You know, I was so in love. I was like, you defended me? And you defended me from my dad? Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna be with you forever. I've decided. Say yes. Ask me now. I'll say yes. So once my husband set that standard and that boundary for me, I kept it too. No, you're not gonna talk to me like that. From anybody. No, you're not gonna disrespect me like that. I'm sorry. And I would tell my dad, more my dad. My mom's way more Americanized than my dad, but I would tell my dad, like, my dad would be like, you have to respect me because I'm your dad. I'm like, nah, B, that's not how it works. You want respect? You gotta respect me. And I'll tell anybody that. And I know, like, when I talk to, like, old heads from Colombia, like, that for them is, like, mind-blowing. Like, what do you mean? Respect is gained, whether you're a parent or not, whether you're a friend, a teacher, an adult. You gotta respect to gain respect. So I set that boundary. And then I got pregnant. I got married, whatever. I married that beautiful man that stood up for me. And I got pregnant. And then I found out that my first baby was gonna be a girl. And that for me was like, a girl. So then I gave birth to my daughter, and when finding out that I had a girl, I knew that I could not speak poorly about myself anymore. And when you have a kid, things like, kind of like word vomit, all these emotions just start to come out. So I made it a rule. I was not allowed to talk poorly about myself. I was not allowed to talk negatively about my body, about my hair, about anything, because I never, ever wanted her to believe those things, because I never wanted somebody to say to her, you kind of look like your mom, but then all she thought about was a mom who constantly complained about her body, her hair, her stretch marks, how she looked. So that was a rule. I also made it a boundary and a rule that nobody ever was allowed to speak negatively about my daughter's physical, honestly, about anything, but definitely not about her physical appearance. Whether you think her hair's too this, she's too flaquita, está muy gordita, I don't want to hear it. If you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. I don't want to hear anything about my daughter. Unless you're telling her that she's the prettiest thing that's walked on the face of the earth, she don't need to hear from you. You don't like what she's wearing? Fine. You don't like the little nail color that she picked? Fine. Keep it to yourself. And I live by that. I stick to that. And my daughter is literally the most confident little 5-year-old girl that when she got glasses, I was so afraid that, she was the only girl in her pre-K class that had glasses, and I was afraid that she was going to feel some type of way. Girl, she rocked. She did not care. She walks around like, I'm wearing bifocals, girl, and then leopard print. I'm like, that's right, baby. You look so cute. Another part of the healing journey, and I'm still doing, I feel like we're always healing, right? Or we're always changing, or whatever, is letting the love in. Accepting the compliments, like from my husband. Letting people be like, wow, you're beautiful, and not just being like, oh, being like, yeah, and believing it, right? Because that's a big thing. And definitely letting that love in that feels safe. Letting go of friendships or people that talk negatively about you or make little even jokes that we all know are kind of not really jokes. Like removing all of that stuff and only surrounding myself with safe love. With people who accept me, love me, genuinely want the best for me, don't find any little moment to pick at me. That was a big thing. And that's all I'm surrounded by now. So now to change the topic, kind of real quick, I want to talk to you guys about what I feel is our responsibility as parents. Now that I'm a mom, the topic bullying hits me so different. Because bullying, talking about the bullying from my past isn't just about me anymore. It's about what am I going to pass on to my children. It really made me realize, like, what kind of a human being do I want to raise? It's so unfortunate, but our kids are growing up in a world where bullying doesn't just end at school. You know, it doesn't end at school, it doesn't end at the bus, and they feel safe at home. Because now there's social media. It's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's through text message. So now bullying is everywhere. And I've heard about group chats and Facebook groups made dedicated to certain people to bully them. And honestly, it's disgusting, but that must be brutal. That really must be brutal for somebody young right now. We've seen kids take away their lives from the cruelty that they face at school, at camp, on the bus. It's honestly heartbreaking. And aside from it being heartbreaking, it is 100% unacceptable. As parents, it's not just our job to make sure our kids go to school, have clothes, and eat. It is our job to make sure that we raise emotionally intelligent, responsible, and kind human beings. We have to make sure that we have our own baggage in check so that way we don't pass it on to our children. It's our job to teach our children how to treat others and to speak up when they see somebody else being mistreated. We need to make sure that our homes are safe spaces where our children feel seen and heard. Where if they're getting bullied in school, they know that they can come home and they can turn to get some help. But aside from all of that, we also need to make sure that we do not raise and enable a bully. Because kids not only listen to what we say, but they watch how we behave. And that is even more impactful than some of the things that they hear come out of our mouths. I think about my daughter and I think about if she ever was bullied the way I was, I want her to feel so deeply loved and be so sure of self that it won't faze her. Oh, you think I'm ugly? That's cute. I want her to have that attitude. I want her to feel so good about herself. For somebody to be like, you're ugly. And she'll be like, you are such a hater. That's what I want. That's what we should all want for our kids. But that all starts at home. That all starts with how we speak to them, speaking life to them. And I feel like this generation specifically, we're doing a pretty good job at it. So if you're somebody who's ever been bullied or you're still carrying the weight of it, here's a few things I want you to remember. 1, you're not crazy if you're still feeling it. 2, you don't have to justify your pain. And 3, you can fully heal. You just got to give yourself permission to start. Start small. Name the pain. Speak kind to yourself. Surround yourself with people who make you feel safe and make you feel seen. And if you feel like you need to go get professional help, then go. Therapy is not a weakness. Start journaling, setting boundaries, and reclaiming the things they took away from you. Now, let me talk to all the parents, the aunties, the mentors, the coaches, anybody who has some kind of an influence over children. These are the things that we need to do. Number 1, we need to model kindness. Show them how to treat other people, even when you think nobody's watching. Teach them empathy early. Teach them how to stand up for somebody when somebody's being mistreated. Make sure you're creating a safe space where they feel like they can open up to you. Check in with them daily. Not just how was school, but how are you? Did something happen you want to talk about? Did you feel safe today at school? Listen, something that we really need to understand is that bullying is not just kids being kids. It's actually trauma that's being built and follows them all through adulthood. And if we want to break the cycle, it starts at home. It starts with us. It starts with me. It starts with you. We gotta do the work. I'm not done healing. I am still healing, but I'm so proud of the work that I've done. At the end of the day, healing from bullying isn't just a personal journey, it is a collective one. Because we've all either been the one hurt, the one healing, or the one holding a space for somebody else. And we have to remember that we are in this together. If you've been bullied, know that your healing is valid, it is possible. And if you're doing the work to grow, to reclaim your power, to love the parts that they tried to break, then I'm so proud of you. We don't have to heal overnight, but we do heal eventually. And as parents, leaders, as people raising the next generation, we've got a job to do. We don't just raise kids, we're raising humans. It is our responsibility to teach them how to lead with empathy, how to treat others with respect, and how to speak up when somebody is being mistreated. We can't stay silent anymore, and we can't keep calling it a phase because people's lives are being lost, and it is unacceptable. Let's do better together. Let's raise better. Let's heal together. Thank you for being here, for listening. for holding space with me, and I'll see you next time. Stay bold, stay soft, stay unfiltered, and don't you ever forget, you are a badass. Until next time, bye.